Hey guys, today we'll be covering a 2022 romance drama film called Through My Window. In the first scene, we see a young woman named Raquel taking her writing lessons. Raquel aspires to become a successful writer in the future. However, she neglects her assignments and stays away from the classroom activities. As she makes her way back home, she starts to share her life story. She mentions that a rich family, the Hidalgos, have bought a house near her home. The Hidalgos have one of the biggest companies in the country called Alpha 3. She further mentions that there are 3 Hidalgo brothers, the eldest one, Artemis, the youngest, Apollo, and the middle one, Eris Hidalgo, who happens to be her crush. In Raquel's opinion, Eris is the most alluring, sexy, and enigmatic of the trio. She also admits to gathering a lot of data on Eris. One day while she's stalking Eris on social media, she gets frustrated because her Wi-Fi connection keeps dropping. As she begins to find the cause of the erratic connection, Apollo calls her to express his gratitude for sharing her Wi-Fi password. Additionally, he informs her that Eris provided him with the password. Raquel is perplexed by this since she never divulged the password to anybody. In the middle of the night, Raquel is awakened by a disturbance emanating from her backyard. When she peeks through the window, she finds Eris playing music. Enraged, Raquel asks him to stop using her internet, but Eris ignores her and continues using it. He also reveals that he knows confidential stuff about her, which he's not supposed to. After saying this much, he wishes Raquel goodnight and departs. The following day at college, Raquel's close buddy, Yoshi, approaches her. Here, we learn that Yoshi has a major crush on Raquel, but the latter only thinks of him as a friend. As they are talking, they spot Daniela, one of their classmates, who seems to be in an illicit affair with a teacher. After college, she visits a stadium where Eris is playing sports and observes him there. Shortly after, it begins to rain and the players have to call off their practice and head back. As Eris makes his way back, Raquel continues to follow him, but after a while, she trips and falls into the muck. She is then apprehended by Eris, who asks her why she keeps following him, but she denies doing so. Just then, Eris reveals that he didn't just hack Raquel's Wi-Fi password, but also her computer. There, he found a lot of information about himself, hence verifying that she is stalking him. This embarrasses Raquel, and she eventually reveals her crush on him. Sadly, Eris asserts that she isn't his type. Despite the demotivating comment, Raquel asks Eris to accompany her home, as she's afraid of the dark. Eris consents, but in exchange, he demands that she allow him to kiss her whenever he pleases. Hearing this, Raquel becomes excited and immediately agrees. However, as they are about to kiss, Eris backs out at the last second and walks her home. Later that night, Eris breaks into Raquel's home to reconnect the internet that she had disconnected. When Raquel finds him, she threatens to call the police, but Eris is unconcerned as he knows that she won't do it. Just then, he starts kissing her, but just like the previous time, he backs out in the middle, leaving her wanting more. The following day at work, Yoshi approaches Raquel. As the two are chatting, Eris shows up and invites her to the celebration of his brother's new club launch. Though she is angry at Eris, she doesn't think twice before accepting. Later, she reaches the party and locates Eris there. As she approaches him, Eris goes inside a VIP room, but when Raquel tries to follow him, she is stopped. Fortunately, the club owner Artemis arrives and takes her inside. She then exits through another door and finds Eris smoking alone in the alleyway. Soon, the duo start making out, but this time, Raquel leaves in the middle without saying anything. Following this, Apollo strikes up a conversation with Raquel in the bar in order to approach her friend Daniela. Raquel offers him a drink and ultimately makes him take more. As night falls, a drunk Apollo confesses that he fears his father, so Raquel is compelled to take him to her home. After a while, Eris enters through the window and remains with his brother. Soon, he starts revealing info about his family and mentions that his grandfather passed away from anaphylactic shock brought on by chlorine allergies. He also says that he has the same chlorine allergy, and this is why he can only swim in a saltwater pool. As their conversation goes on, Eris decides to stay at Raquel's place until his father leaves for work. As Apollo is asleep, the two get some alone time and start becoming close. The following day, Raquel shares everything with Daniela and Yoshi. Hearing this, Daniela encourages her to be with Eris, but Raquel is still doubtful about him. Later, she finds a brand new phone along with a note from Eris. At first, she becomes happy, but soon realizes that she can't take the expensive gift. So, she goes to Eris's place to return the phone. There, she meets the housekeeper, Claudia, who shows her the way to Eris's room. As she enters his room, she finds Eris having a video call with another girl. Seeing this, she returns the gift and decides to leave, but Eris stops her, insisting that she should accept the present. Despite this, Raquel prepares to leave, but then Eris asks if he can kiss her. Raquel says no, but soon she turns around and gives him a kiss. Eventually, they start having intimate relations with one another. Elsewhere, Yoshi is waiting for Raquel so that they can study together. Following the intimacy, Eris ignores Raquel's attempts to adore him and starts playing video games. As a result, she is heartbroken and returns home, where she apologizes to Yoshi and asks him to come another day. The next day at school, Raquel mentions everything about her encounter with Eris to Daniela. Just then, she receives a picture of Eris wearing her locket that she left at his house. Wasting no time, she heads to his house to retrieve her favorite locket. Inside, she discovers the Hidalgo brothers having fun with their friends, who compliment her beauty. Surprisingly, she also notices Artemis kissing Claudia. Suddenly, Aris shoves her into the swimming pool. When Raquel tastes the salty water, she realizes that Eris was telling the truth about his chlorine allergy. Following this, he leads her to his room and places her locket around her neck. Despite his womanizing behavior, Raquel still loves him, and as a result, they make love one more time. The next morning, Aris wakes up and goes downstairs to see if he can sneak Raquel out without his father noticing. Claudia then enters the room and leads Raquel out without being detected. This upsets Raquel, and she begins to feel that Eris is just playing with her. She then meets up with Yoshi and reveals everything to him. Hearing this, Yoshi comes closer to her and starts consoling her. The next evening, Yoshi brings Raquel to a party, hoping that she can forget about everything. Soon, the duo begins dancing, while Daniela spends some private time with Apollo. During the dance, Raquel becomes even more upset when she witnesses Eris kissing another girl. Seeing this, Yoshi takes her beside the swimming pool and expresses his heartfelt sentiments. Elsewhere, Eris returns home and hacks into Raquel's computer to obtain her Wi-Fi password. However, when he finds out that she's changed it, he gets enraged and sends her hate messages. A few moments later, he finds Raquel outside in a drunken state and carries her to her place. Raquel requests that he read her some bedtime stories, to which he replies with a story of his own. He reveals that his family's attitude towards infidelity has distorted his feelings toward any commitment. He also recalls a time when he saw his mother with another man, and when he informed his father about it, the old man simply replied that it was fine, as he too had done the same thing many times. As a result, he realized that love is a weakness. Hearing this, Raquel lovingly holds his hand, causing him to cry. The next morning, Aris is called by his father, who has noticed his changing behavior. His father warns him against becoming too close with someone. He tells Aris to hang out with as many girls as he wants, but to avoid Raquel. Later during his football game, he keeps thinking about his father's words, but seeing Raquel in the audience clears his mind, allowing him to score a goal. Later, Raquel and Yoshi are studying in the library when Eris approaches her. He apologizes to her for everything he has done in the past and requests a second chance. He also expresses his true feelings for her and invites her to a costume party on Saturday, which she accepts. Meanwhile, Yoshi witnesses everything, making him jealous and causes him to walk away. After the conversation, Raquel approaches Yoshi and talks to him. According to Yoshi, Eris is not the right guy for her because he's been using her since the beginning. Yoshi also reveals that he desires more from her than just her friendship. He then leaves, but not before warning Raquel that if Eris cheats on her again, he will not be there for her. In the next scene, Aris picks Raquel up for a date and surprises her by taking her to the Alpha building. They spend some romantic time on the roof, ending it with some amorous passion. After the encounter, the two start spending their time as a couple. One day, while having dinner with his family, Aris is caught with video evidence of his relationship, causing his father to scold him. The old man tells him to forget about the girl, but instead of complying, he becomes enraged and walks away to Raquel's workplace. Soon after, he approaches Raquel and informs her of his decision to work at the same fast food place. The following day, Aris takes Raquel to a party hosted by Alpha 3 Company. He introduces her to his parents there, which creates an awkward situation. A few moments later, Raquel sees her mother working as a waitress, causing her to feel humiliated. As a result, she leaves the party, believing Aris purposefully put her in this position. Aris tries to explain the coincidence, but Raquel slaps him and walks away. Following that, Artemis confronts him for his heinous behavior, reminding him that they are Alpha 3. However, Aris counter-questions Artemis about his secret relationship with Claudia, to which the latter replies that it was just a fling. The next day, Raquel avoids Aris at work and declines his invitation to the upcoming prom. One day, Yoshi delivers food to the Hidalgo's mansion and overhears the family's conversation. Elsewhere, Raquel sobs in disappointment as her mother arrives to console her. Her mother reveals that despite being a great writer, her father never had the courage to publish his book. As a result, she advises Raquel to not follow in his footsteps and rather be brave enough to express her true feelings to Aris. Following this, Raquel goes to Aris's house, but Claudia and Artemis prevent her from meeting Aris. As a result, she texts him an apology and informs him that she will wait for him at the prom. However, Aris's father forbids him from checking his phone during the meal. In the next scene, Raquel is at the prom where she is waiting for her date. After a while, Aris arrives at the prom and comes across Yoshi, who tells him to stop breaking Raquel's heart. Hearing this, Aris takes Yoshi to the poolside and confesses his feelings for Raquel, but the latter is not convinced. Because of this, Aris tells Yoshi to hit him so that he can release his anger. Complying with his request, Yoshi knocks him down into a half-empty pool. After this, Yoshi proceeds to walk away, but accidentally kicks a gallon of chlorine in the pool. This causes Aris difficulties in breathing, and he eventually loses consciousness. On the other hand, Yoshi approaches Raquel and reveals the entire incident to her. Hearing this, she immediately rushes to the location and enters the pool. Soon, Yoshi pulls them out with a rope, and they rush Aris to the hospital. There, Aris's father blames Raquel for his son's condition, but his wife quickly stops him. A few moments later, the doctor informs him that Aris has gone to ICU due to severe anaphylactic shock. After the incident, Raquel begins to spend all of her time in the hospital caring for Aris. Meanwhile, she also works on a novel about her time with Aris. One day, Aris regains his consciousness and greets Raquel as a witch, bringing her relief. A couple of weeks later, he gets released from the hospital. Eventually, Aris's family accepts Raquel and also supports his dream to study medicine abroad. Before leaving, Aris reveals that he purposely broke his Wi-Fi so that he could talk to Raquel. Following this, they continue their long-distance relationship. Meanwhile, Artemis and Claudia have reunited happily. Raquel also shows her novel in front of her entire literature class. In the following scene, we see Raquel in her room reading Aris's text. Just then, she hears a sound from her window. To her surprise, she finds Aris, who jumps inside through the window and joins her in bed for a romantic embrace.